Hey there, my name's Joe Keyport, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. This week, I talked to Desmond and Jacob of the band Career Day. As you'll soon hear, the interview starts off with just Desmond and I, but Jacob joins us just a few minutes in. Career Day began as a project a few years prior, but was abandoned after life does what life likes to do with passion projects. The band is now back with a brand new lineup and a brand new EP, Pride Was Somewhere Else. The three of us talked about the band's new beginnings, and we get into the nitty-gritty of the release. It's Career Day right here on the Ear Coffee Podcast. Desmond, how's it going?
It's as well as hell can be right now. We're on the it's December 37th. It's December 38th of 2020. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, we're just on the next chapter of 2020. It feels like.
Oh yeah, yeah. As as the lyrics may paint it, as someone who is inherently cynical and negative, this was definitely the harshest jumping of any New Year optimism I think that I've ever seen. I mean, this was an ass kicking of hope. And any idea of what, maybe we'll feel better. Let's come back to that. Let's come back to that in a little bit.
Yeah. Since you mentioned it, kind of like you like with the lyrics and just a cynical view, I don't want to I don't mean to jump down the line of my questions, but as someone who's got a background in activism, how do you work that together, like cynicism while trying to, fight for justice? Because I find someone like myself who also is a little more cynically minded when was out the summer, and just you want things to change, but just man, no, it won't. But you want it to still.
So I guess for me, it's that I guess as it pertains to my writing being usually coming from a angry or sad, not all of it is that,
no,
but out of some sort of I don't know, gritted teeth type of emotion. For me, what I like, writing is something that a lot of times I try to construct my thoughts, but it's a place for me to try to paint visceral feelings and thoughts and contemplations that I've had. And it's important for me to have a space like that, because obviously I want there to be great changes in racial justice and immigrant justice and environmental justice and health justice. And all of those things are going to take a long time and a lot of organizing to achieve. And so I believe those things will be accomplished, but I am not somebody I don't want to ever come off like a PSA type posy person, because that's not me. That's not my energy. And it also, so for me, I like to try to be authentic. I like that writing lets me try to construct some authentic takes that I have. And also just The Cure, I think there's a great Robert Smith quote about people assume that Robert Smith is this ultra depressive person. And he had a quote about nah, I'm a pretty happy person. This is The Cure is the place for him to really delve into all the other shit.
Yeah, it's the place to let it out so it doesn't overcome anywhere else.
For sure.
But let's get started into kind of your history with music, kind of leading up to the band Career Day. Talk to me about kind of your history and your background and coming into becoming a musician yourself.
So I mean, I grew up as I grew up in the suburbs, moved around a lot. And so Warped Tour obviously was the thing. I remember Blink-182 was the band to me. And then I remember a cousin of mine showing me New Found Glory, and then that led me to all the things that weren't immediately on MTV, although ended up being on MTV shortly thereafter, Less Than Jake, etc. And so from there, I I played in some bands. I was in high school. I was Jacob's here.
Hey, sorry about that. I got stuck with doing a work thing.
All good.
Work things.
We're also, since we're recording, we'll quickly introduce Jacob of Career Day, the guitarist here for the band, managed to join us here not halfway, good Lord, a few minutes into the interview. Jacob, how's it going?
It's good. How are you?
Doing pretty well. We're quick talking through the history, individual history now with music. There we go. Leading into Career Day here.
Okay.
So,
let's see. So I had I had been in a few bands before Career Day. I was in a like an indie rock band that didn't know what it wanted to be. Like we had like a billion people in the band, and it was like sometimes we would write just like hard rock songs, or I would try to like push my pop punk agenda on them, or it would kind of be like weirdly jazz inspired because we had like a sax player. In college, I played in a couple of bands. One where it was kind of like this like indie pop synth band that the lead singer, she wrote all the music for, so she kind of like put together a whole band to like play her music. So I played guitar in that, and then I was also in like a band that was a mix of it was definitely like a very like Wonder Years meets You Blew It inspired type of thing. That was kind of almost my like first like foray into playing open tuning emo style stuff, math rocky type stuff. And then I finished school and put out a post on like a New York City musicians Facebook group being like, I'm looking to be in a band. These are my influences. I want to try to do something fun and cool and interesting and like see where it goes. And then Desmond reached out to me. I auditioned in the basement of a rug shop and
nice. So kind of cut Desmond off here a little bit, but you're talking.
Yeah, yes. Oh
no, you go ahead.
Did you want me to pick back up? Yeah. Well, no. So yeah, I did like I had a band with my high school friends that I grew up with that was called Holden Pan. That was like very like Taking Back Sunday-ish, like Long Island tribute type stuff. And then I sang for Bellwether, and then I didn't then Career Day was originally like we had a demo a couple of years ago, and then it was one of those things where like I'm sure anybody that's been in a band, you get together, you jam a bit, you play a couple of shows, and then it's just like, oh, this line, like we're not trying to do the same thing. And so I just like, all right, I'm working like 3 jobs. This is already like, and I want to do this, but it's not kind of like fitting into the aggravation. It's not like that ratio of like aggravation to like joy. It doesn't, it's not worthwhile,
no,
so
as much as you love the project, it's not worth burning yourself out over like what it'll do to you in the long run.
It's just, there's no money. There's no money in music. So it's just like, there's gotta be joy. And like, there's one of those things where it's like, okay, this is just, it's like hurting some of the friendships that are involved like in this thing. So like, I want to do music, but I'm going to like, not I'm not going to, pursue this right now. But I saw Jacob's post on it's very rare that like the internet post, looking to jam thing leads to something other than like bad Fish covers or
yeah.
But I saw Jacob's post, and like literally from there we took it slow. But it was like I instantly was like, damn, this dude can riff, and I can work with this. But yeah.
You mentioned, Desmond, that early demo. Was that the before you put out Nope, Sorry? Or was
Nope. Sorry, is I guess the demo.
Okay, because I was wondering, because there's that like 2 or 3 year kind of hiatus, or I shouldn't say hiatus, but like gap between kind of that early those first 2 songs and then your new EP, which we're talking about here today. Pride Was Somewhere Else. So, and looking at like the track listing. You have, except for the drummer, I believe it's a whole new lineup.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Gotcha. So, when did that Jacob, you saw that posting on like online, like, hey, looking for a band, and you guys got together? What year was that?
That was 2019.
Okay.
That was like, I want to say January or February. I remember I had just started. Like I had finished college a semester early and had just started like my first like job out of school, and was like I was not finding much fulfillment there, and I wanted to round out my fulfillment in life more.
Gotcha.
And so I just kind of took a leap, and I was still living at home on Long Island at the time too, but I figured, I'm already commuting into the city 5 days a week. It didn't really matter to me to continue doing that, and I just kind of decided to take that leap.
Yeah, it was February. It was late. I believe it was late February. It was because it was cold as hell. Yeah, and I remember it was like, I remember there being this like thing of like, man, that was really fun. But then I was about to visit relatives of mine in the Philippines, like a week later, and I was going to be gone for like about 2 weeks. So it was like, all right, so that's like not going to see this guy for a month. But that was February 2019. Yeah.
So Desmond, what made you pick back up kind of under the Career Day moniker then and continue moving? Why not like, you have the 2 songs out, you're just like, why not scrap it and move on?
I mean, that was a thought for a while. I guess ultimately what it came down to for me was that the project did not really exist publicly for very long. Like we put out a demo, we played, we put out 2 songs, we played like 2 or 3 shows. And like, that was kind of I had kind of, for the most part, it was one of those things where people didn't really know it existed. So like my perception of it is that like it didn't really like the band didn't exist as this like publicly existing band really. So that side of it didn't feel like there was like there wasn't a history there that I felt like I had to live up to. It's not Skiba 182 type headspace. And the name, I like the name, frankly.
I also like the name.
I like the name, and also just I kind of like the perception as I get older of like Career Day, seeing how from when you're growing up, your life is built around like what your life is or isn't going to be based off what job you do or don't have, and that as Lenny, that's a thing that was never there for me when it was time to like be an adult. Like that world really does not exist, and this idea of like, so now how do I define myself in absence of that is something that like I think everybody kind of experiences, and it's something that I kind of like wearing into like the moniker of this band.
What, Desmond, then what for you made you want to come back to doing music? Because you mentioned it was like that ratio of frustration and like personal enjoyment wasn't there originally. What was the thing that broke so you could kind of come back to Career Day in a way that what was the thing that allowed you to come back with like a fresh set of eyes to see if you could enjoy it in a way, or have it in a way that brings joy?
It's kind of it's like a 2-pronged type of thing where on one hand, it was like, just frankly, the writing chemistry was so good that like that feeling, there's that feeling you get when you're writing a song where it's, oh shit, I think we have something here. Like there's that moment that you get where you're able to like really dive into something. I got that out of these songs. And from my advocacy work, there was like kind of this thing. Part of why there wasn't an enjoyment at first was because I just wasn't getting enough out of it. The feeling, like I wasn't getting enough, I felt catharsis out of it, to the point where like, okay, all these big things are going on in the world and all these fights are going on that we need to get involved in. It didn't feel like I was getting enough catharsis out of it to justify not putting more attention into those things. Although I like what I will say is, I guess the other side of that is something that I've found. With all of that said, those fights are so big, are so the arc of them is so long. It's very important, like I realized, to have a place to vent, to like in 2 to 3 like minutes.
Yeah.
Tell some sort of story, like really like live in certain melodies and riffs and sounds and textures like that. And I think especially in how the absence of live music this past year, you know, that is a very like legitimately real, tangible, valuable thing to really to feed and foster.
Gotcha. When you all got together to do those kind of initial jams and try to see if there was something there to form, how quickly did it take for you to start playing shows, or have you played shows since reforming?
Nope.
Oh,
zero.
Wow. We were supposed to play one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like March
24th of March.
Oh.
Yeah. That got, yeah. It was gonna be at my favorite bar in Brooklyn too, and it was like, damn, like, and my friend's beer company, shout out Non Sequitur, they were gonna like, they were like putting on the show at Pine Box Rock Shop, and it was like, damn, I get to play my first show in years. My friend's gonna have his beer there. It's going to be at this great bar. Then historical pandemics happen. You know, you can't plan these things.
No. Yeah. It definitely throws everything for a loop. Cause this was going to be my first year of touring, or last year was, and then you're just like, well, and there it goes.
Yeah. Next year. Yeah. That moment where I was like, oh, this isn't going to be a couple months. That moment that was like, oh, this is actually a thing. Okay.
Yeah. It's like I just remember in like April going like frisbee golfing with a couple of my roommates to be like, okay, we'll just like lock down for a little bit. Everything will be fine. In like August, the world will be back together. And then you're just like, no, it's not.
It's a Shaun of the Dead, hunker down, have a pint type of energy, right?
And wait for it to all come crashing down.
So with only having the 2 songs out prior to writing this EP, did you feel any sort of, like Jacob and Desmond, did you feel any sort of need to adhere to the sound that potentially people may have known, or that was like laid down before going into the release?
So when Desmond recruited me for this, or when we decided to get together and try it out, he kind of just said to me, like, he said, here are our songs, but like, we're very willing to go in any sort of direction with it. And like, while yes, like what we ended up putting out sounds a lot different from those 2 songs from before my time, it's still within the same universe, not necessarily the same ballpark, but like it's still like they could be on the same, the 2 different versions of Career Day could be on the same bill, if that makes sense.
It's different sides of the same coin. I felt like listening to both.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted just to come in, and I didn't really want to try to, because I mean, like, I, also being into a lot of the similar bands that
Mhm.
Desmond and Brian are into, and that influenced the original sound. I just kind of wanted to do my own take on it, and just like stuff that I had been writing like on my own time by myself, that I just kind of wanted to actually like be able to play in a band with, just because I've never been one to like intuit over it and write everything myself and record it all myself. And I wanted to very much, I was sitting on a lot of interesting ideas, and I very much wanted to bring those to a table and work with other people to like see where they would go. So I just when Desmond said, "Hey, we want to do something different and interesting," I was like, "Okay, great. Here are some stuff that I've been like noodling around with and working on," and then we just kind of like all threw in our different influences and different things, and really leaned into just like stuff that we really liked, and weren't trying to like be like super like middle of the road or try too hard to sound like the old songs, because
Mhm.
in all fairness, like I said to Desmond, I like, unless if it's written out for me, I'm not really going to be able to figure out how to play it.
Yeah.
So it was like we shouldn't even have to worry about like trying to sound like those, because we probably won't ever end up playing them.
Mhm.
And just kind of like it's a whole other band. And literally, other than Desmond and Brian, it's an entirely different band than the other two guys that were in it before me.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I think it really shows.
And I did at first I did kind of like I was very glad that Jacob wanted to be creative. I have this, like, I guess, like, starting feeling of like, damn, like, lyrically I really loved like these songs, like, and I was like kind of bummed to like, set them, let them have that like Viking funeral type of farewell.
Mhm.
But yeah, like, that, because that song "Nope Sorry" is kind of like like kind of this, like, I put like a whole period of like, this is what life without music has kind of felt like, and the self disappointment, the disappointment, like that, the
Mhm.
content, like the contentment that or contempt that I felt, I guess, with myself and maybe others. Like, I don't know. So like I was like, it was like, damn, put a lot into that. Bummed I can't really rock it out, but let's let me come to the table in good faith. And if I want to do something
Mhm.
new, then I have to let that shit go.
Yeah. Was the whole band like assembled by the time or when you started writing Pride was somewhere else, or was it just you and Jacob and Desmond? Was it
No, I think it, for the most part, we had, so for like, for instance, I think the first song that was written for this EP, well, the one that ended up on it was Monument.
mm,
And that was actually written while Desmond was away. I think he was like away on vacation, and it was me and our bass player Andrew and our drummer Brian, like, because it was still like one or two practices after adding Andrew,
mm,
our bass player, into the band, and so we were just kind of jamming on random stuff. So a lot of it, once we all were kind of together, it all started to come to. So it all started to kind of come together. Like, I would, depending on the song, would bring like an idea, or like a kind of like a blueprint of what it's going to be, or like even just like one part to the song, to the table, and we all kind of would just kind of work on that. And Desmond and I would get together, like, kind of initially before bringing it to Andrew and Brian, just to like kind of flesh it out just as much as the two of us could.
mm.
Um, yeah.
Uh, did you reach out to who? Since Desmond, you knew Brian from the previous incarnation. Was
Yeah.
Andrew another just kind of a serendipitous moment from an internet site, or was that like
Craigslist.
nice?
Again, yeah, yeah. I don't know. Yeah,
And he lives
this
on
was.
Staten Island too.
Yeah,
And I was,
and he's, yeah, Staten Island, which is, I mean, no disrespect to the Wu Tang Clan, but as far as I don't consider them to be emo punk, and
no, but
and
there is a pretty cool emo band on Staten Island right now called I think they're called Common Sage. They're a cool
Oh,
band. You guys should check out. They're from Staten Island. I saw
I've,
them play open for Signals Midwest like a year ago. I definitely recommend them.
I'd have to check with. I'm pretty sure the other person who does Ear Coffee with me interviewed them for a write up recently.
They're a cool band.
Yeah.
With Andrew, like it was Craig's again. It was this thing of like serendipitous yet also it taking time. Like we need a bassist, so then we reached out on Craigslist. We got 2 hits. One of them was someone that did not work, and then one of them was Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. But then I was then going on.
He was going away again.
I was going away again. And in fairness, I sat on paid time off for 2 years. So I'm not, some gallivanter. I feel like this is coming off maybe some 1%er type of emo. That's not the case. It was but yeah, so it was one of those things like that, it was cool. Oh, wow, this is great. But then again, it's oh, okay, well, probably 3 or 4 weeks before, I get into this room again. But yeah, I could tell it was good because Monument was written in the first meeting that was with Andrew after the tryouts. So I wasn't there. And then I just get this iPhone recording of the first version of that song. And I was like, all right, great. Yep, that's a song. Let's go.
Well, since we're kind of already talking about writing that first one, I wanted to do a track by track breakdown since it's a nice tight little 3P here.
Okay.
So we were talking about Monument, and that was written. I should say before we jump into the little track by track breakdown, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Was a lot of the instrumentation done before lyrics were written, or was that kind of all, or was Monument kind of the exception to that rule where the band happened to be together, sans you, Desmond, or was it mix? Or
the other, let's see, Monument was kind of like that. Regrets was, I had written a couple of parts, and Desmond and I got together and kind of workshopped it together, and he started to come up with some melodies and lyrics as I was working on it. And then once we brought it to everybody, it started to kind of really take its form. Truth Changes was pretty written by myself. The structure and certain areas changed and things were added and taken away. But that was kind of one of the few songs, just because it kind of when I was writing it or writing my part, all the guitar stuff for it, it just kind of wrote itself. And I brought kind of not a full done product, but a semi done product that needed some work. It was a little bit longer than it needed to be and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, at least from my perspective, I want to say a lot of the instrumental, the starts of it were written first, and then things would change based on oh, this would be a cool, Desmond would come with a cool melody or a cool set of lyrics, and it's okay, how can we move things around to make this work, or
how can how can we work on the dynamics so that either this part of a melody or this guitar part can get to flourish. How do we make sure that the right parts of the songs are talking at the right times?
Yeah.
I remember with Truth Changes, where a lot of the parts, and it was I feel this song. I need you to just keep playing it for me, and then I'm telling you, we're gonna find what the chorus is, and we did. But yeah, no, it was. I think Jacob was pretty on the ball there.
Awesome. Well, let's move into the track by track breakdown here. So, kicking off right away, we have Monument, which, I mean, especially with the fact that I feel like it only adds to the fact that you released this New Year's Day. The first line you hear is that sample. Is that a sample, or is that something?
That's Aqua Teen.
Okay, yeah,
that's Aqua Teen Hunger Force, baby. That's Carl Butanowski.
That's what it is. I was like, that name is so familiar, but I haven't watched an Adult Swim show in so long.
What it was. I'm going to show my youth here and say I had no idea what it was, and I was like, oh, this is some Adult Swim thing from when I was a baby.
It's accurate.
We play. I like to play a game where it's like, how can I make Desmond feel old today, with like my or his references.
Yeah, it's kind of like I refer to us as an emo training day type of situation. Whereas I'm Denzel. I'm kind of that. I'm kind of that aged kind of crazy MF.
Nice. So it kicks off. Talk to me about like the theme of that song, because it's just a lot of the lyrics deal with feeling like an underachiever. And I was reading through your emo trash premiere on that one, and just kind of the idea of, you mentioned working 3 jobs there, and you've kind of talked about that here, where a lot of time you're doing a lot of stuff, but it doesn't feel like anything's really amounting to much. So
yeah, I mean that is the crystallization of like that feeling of life as almost like you're in the hull of a ship, and there's like I think there's a Looney Tune of this, like a hole plugs up, so then you put a finger in it to try to stop it, but then there's always another leak, and that was very much how that time in my life felt, and where literally the only things that I felt were building up were like the half finished beer cans, like on my side of the bed, and like on the windowsill, like right next to the bed. Yeah, I mean, like, and that's kind of with the way that Jacob's riff, the riff Jacob came up with, it just kind of felt like, okay, this is the type of thing where like everything should start all at the same time. And I felt like telling the story in the way that a lot of my days would go, where like if I was working event security, I have to set an alarm clock sometimes for like, I mean, one time worked like Good Morning America, and that was like 3 a.m. wake up, and I had to like walk past people that were like leaving after last call to like show up for my like Central Park Big Sean like security shift. Like that was very much and then with the second verse kind of being a little bit groovier, kind of like, oh, okay, this is what it's like on like the bus ride home or the subway home, where I'm like, yeah, I'm dead inside. Yeah, and tomorrow's going to be this again.
Yeah. Listening to like instrumentally in the way like how tight that song feels, I feel like that's like the most pop punky thing, like sound, especially how earnest it is with the like the riffs. Truth Changes has that towards the end, and like I wanted to ask about that towards the end of that song as well. But like thinking about it, this is like one of the tighter songs on the EP, with how much everything was just felt very locked to the beat and very lockstep as it progressed.
Yeah. The song originally, I like when I wrote up my little thing for Emo Trash, I actually re-listened to the original recording because I kind of wanted to try to get back into the headspace that I was in like 2 years ago. But the second that I heard the chorus that Desmond came up with, I was like, oh, this needs to like, that's why I kind of decided in the chorus riff, decided to kind of do like more of like an octaves type thing, where it's like a little bit more tighter and it's not as open sounding, just because I wanted to like, I very much wanted to highlight what Desmond was doing, and also like kind of like mimic it too, and like the sliding motion that I'm doing in the chorus. And I think in general also like Andrew, he's great, because like I don't usually have to tell him what to do. Like he kind of just like, he figured, and the fact that I don't have to tell him what to do to come up with like for his parts or anything. Like he comes up with it. I don't even notice it like until we start to record like what he's actually doing. But like he's very much, also him and Brian they're all very musical guys and have good ears, and they're all very much, the 3 of us all together were kind of like, we should just like kind of be doing the same thing, just to kind of like elevate what Desmond's singing and like try to really add to that, I guess.
You talk about wanting like the tighter and like staying away from the open chords like during the chorus of that song. Like listening through your guitar playing on the EP, you use a lot more open chords. It feels much more grandiose. Is that something like as a guitar player you just kind of gravitate towards? You kind of have those more try to get as many strings into that. My theory is not there to try and talk about guitar playing, but
I get what you're saying. About a year prior to being in this band, I was in a band, and it was like my first foray into all that style of playing, and like I was like playing lead guitar in that band, and then I was used to just kind of like being in bands in which I just kind of came up with leads and whatnot, and that was like the first band in which I was much more thinking about my parts and how it fit into another person playing, like another guitar player playing, and a lot of it was a lot of open tuning stuff, and I mean, I did not get along very much with that guy at the end of it, but I very much like kept that style of playing to this day, just because I very much enjoyed it, and I really much enjoyed like the ability to combine. That's something that like whenever we write new songs now, Desmond always like tries to like force me to come up with two separate parts instead of like I combine like the lead and rhythm parts into one guitar, because I was like, I just don't want to have to worry about dealing with another person. Another guitar player again, because it's like we have a battle of egos and all that jazz. But I wanted to like play something that felt huge, and only one person was playing it, and I thought that was like really, really cool, and I just very much fell in love with the sound of the tuning, I guess, to not like nerd out too much, but I really enjoyed the sound and just like the different types of chords you could get without stretching your fingers in a billion different places and
playing
like
some funky jazz chord.
I didn't want to relive my jazz band days from high school, so but I fell in love with it, and I thought like making it big, and like I also was like so used to playing like really, and like these songs aren't super happy, but I was so used to playing in the band prior like these like really dark and sad sounding songs, and I wanted to like write stuff that like, and I was in like a really terrible place, so I wanted to like write stuff that like made me happy, made me feel good to play, even though that like what we were singing about wasn't necessarily very positive, but like in a way is like kind of uplifting, or like make people like in like bands like I don't know, like Transit had a lot of songs like that where it's like it's some pretty heavy shit, but like the music, like it's like some like kumbaya type stuff. I don't know.
it really fits with like the kind of that togetherness, is something that really struck me with like, especially like Monument, since we're talking about that song right now, is like with the way the chorus, your lyrics work, and the way the production works, it feels much more like, despite it being a darker song and like, well, this is all I've amassed is the half empty beer cans on the windowsill, it feels very unifying in the sense of like, it's like you and your buddies singing along, like you're part of that song at that point, with the way the production and the guitars and like everything really fits it together.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Billy at Two Worlds. He's an incredible producer. Mixing and mastering that he did on it was incredible. But I mean, to your point about like, you know, singing this like with your buddies, like this is like a song that I really can't wait until, you know, vax me up, baby. I need to have people I don't know, you know, screaming these words, you know, with me.
Yeah.
Because just I don't know. Sorry, I'm just seriously like lost in the thought of like
being able to hear those words back. Yeah.
It just especially, I guess, especially because, to your point of like, while the lyrics are negative, and the lyrics don't necessarily paint a rosy picture. You know, it's within it is this idea of like, I'll be back doing this again tomorrow. Like I'll be back at this point. And and for me, like that kind of grim, I wouldn't call that necessarily optimism. And I think to call it resilience, especially in context of like how many serious issues there are, it would be overstating it. But I do kind of like this idea of like trying to come up with the poppiest melody you can with like very sardonic stuff. And you know, you being from Minnesota, I mean, Motion City Soundtrack, baby.
Yeah.
That's them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's like, that is like one of like my big guideposts with like writing.
Do you Desmond, do you really like when coming to a chorus of a song, do you really focus to try and do that big, almost stadium like chorus where it's more all encompassing? Because like listening through the EP, I felt more like the chorus felt much bigger and meant to be, you know, that big thing as opposed to something a little more I'm thinking, you know, something it definitely is meant to be, you know, shouted along to, as opposed to, you know, some of the other stuff you'll hear where, you know, the chorus, you get to the chorus and it's not that big open moment.
So you mean for both Monument and just in general?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, for me, I tend to, I'll have different lyrical ideas that will come up for verses, or certain phrases will come to mind, certain melodies. But for me, like I really don't feel like I can invest in a song until I have a chorus, because to me the chorus is like, I was an English major, so like choruses to me are like, that's my thesis, like that's the thing.
Yeah.
And then the verses are like the body paragraphs. Like that's how I build my point. And like so with choruses, to me they need to be the biggest part of like, for my part at least, that needs to be the biggest part of the vocal part of the song. Like that needs to be like the thing that I need to make sure like that sets the motif, that like how does this channel everything else in the song? Like how does this channel the mood of what everybody else is like doing and putting in, and like the general like mood that this like world, basically the world that the song is creating.
Yeah.
How does that like sell? It's almost like I mean, another Adult Swim reference, Tim and Eric. It's like a commercial within it's like a commercial within itself. You know what I mean? Like this is the thing that is the, like you're trying to drive home about this.
Gotcha. Well, we can move on to the middle track here, Deathbed Regrets, which really kind of deals with like listening through it, forgiveness and coming to terms with the situation, kind of either coming to terms or just kind of deciding that it exists, whether you should leave it be or kind of face it head on. Talk to me about this track.
So, you know, as mentioned before, like through advocacy work and just also just like my personal life, there's a lot of conversation about the important, and I've no issue talking about the fact that I've been to therapy and I've been in and out of therapy for much of my adult life. And forgiveness is a very interesting concept, especially the way, you know, we try to frame it now, which is important, about, especially when you realize like how much of our world is punishment oriented, how much it's oriented on just completely nullifying people's existences, like in a criminal justice sense. I don't, and I'm not meaning that in a, you know, a cancel, you know, phrase. That discourse is so like nebulous and ill-defined. But don't
get them started on that.
No, well, no, I know, no. To me, it is like, it's a very interesting. No, I mean, just honestly, it is a very interesting. Like, how do we deal? And it's a big conversation. How do we deal with people who fail us? And
what does justice look like?
What? Yeah. Very, very much. And sometimes, what does justice look like, and what does healing look like? You know, those are things that are hard to try to manage. And like, you know, something just, I don't think there's always neat 140 to 280 character answers for those things. And for me, like, this was about, like, from a lot of conversations I'd had with my therapist about just different aspects of forgiveness and needing to forgive, or the value of not needing, but the value of forgiving people, and what it's like when you try to find forgiveness, but it's just not taking. Like, there's always something that happens. And for me, I try to have it be painted as a struggle that doesn't necessarily have a resolution, and that I think says just as much about the person that is seeking forgiveness as it does the person that's struggling to give it, or grant it. And this was a song where I was able to really, play out that inner struggle.
Yeah, well, and since you mentioned earlier, the chorus is really the thesis for you. Like, listening through the chorus for Deathbed Regrets is the fact that it's like a call and response that feels almost like a challenge, as opposed to like a productive conversation. Because like the first couple lines are like, can't be bitter forever, and just, is that a bet, and all stuff like that. It feels much more like you were challenging that initial like comment, as opposed to just like that trying to make that forward moving step, if you will.
No, I mean, it is that, it's definitely that, and it's I don't know. I'm glad that you picked up on that, just because that like literally is, those are like things that have like those. I think the first like two couplets are kind of lines that like literally I've like had like on the drive back from my therapist. I'm like, I don't have to fucking forgive them. Actually, no, I'm good with this. Actually, no, I'm happy. I'm totally happy with with holding on to this grudge for another 10 years or something.
And then just spiting your therapist.
Yeah. Shout out, Sean. I appreciate you. I'll send you this.
Jacob, take me through writing instrumentals for Deathbed Regrets here. Kind of what was going through your mind as you were going into that track?
Yeah. I always very much like to write songs in which some of the parts like kind of sound not the same, but like variations on the theme. So I kind of first came up, because sometimes like reinventing the wheel can be difficult, but also just like sometimes it just sounds like you're trying too hard to write a song that sounds entirely different all the way through. And so I kind of was just strumming away in my bedroom and came up with like the intro first verse, and then it was just playing around with it. And I think like I had brought basically that to practice. I kind of came up, and then we started playing it, and then when I came with that the first chorus, it was just kind of like on the fly, and I was like, oh, this would be really cool if I just kind of like reversed the verse into the chorus, and just kind of play it. And we had like made this big huge we built up into this big, like, while like Desmond's not like belting it, but like what he's saying is pretty big and anthemic, and like we have this like big like where like everything's unison, like chord stop, chord stop, chord stop. And I then wanted to like, I was like actually for once listening to what Andrew's doing on the bass, and I wanted to kind of like pull back after into like that second verse and just kind of let like Desmond keep going and like have his whole thing, and like us just kind of like be tight underneath him, especially with like the way that Brian was playing playing drums, and Andrew's kind of doing some cool like riffs that kind of not matched what Desmond was singing, but kind of like filled in some of the gaps because I was kind of, especially like once I was listening to like what Desmond was singing and what he was coming up with, that's when I kind of decided to like pull it back again after that second chorus, do like a build. I'm a sucker for a build.
Yeah.
And so that bridge, like I wanted to basically do the same thing over and over again, but just like vamping on the theme. But kind of like do it a little differently every time, like arpeggios and palm mute, and then just like rocking it and strumming it away. And then just kind of like just explode into this crazy outro. And that was like, and just like kind of like everyone just kind of go crazy with like all of us together, just like doing this like crazy, it's like what the riff I'm playing is like kind of like, I don't even know how I don't even really, I just like started I wish there was like a more intellectual answer to this than what I'm saying, but it was really just like messing around and like again playing on that like same sort of area on the fretboard and like seeing how many different ways I could do the same thing.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier previous bands you did a lot of open tuning things, and this is like kind of that idea of like you have the melody and the rhythm kind of combined in those big kind of open chords. Do you do a lot of open tunings here in Career Day, or is that all standard?
No, it's all open.
Okay,
it's two different tunings, but it's all.
What are the two tunings you use primarily?
Well, so for this release, we ended up like, so for this release, it's D A E A C sharp E.
Okay.
And then the other one's like the American football, like F A C G C E.
Yep.
But then we decided we actually now play both of those half a step down.
Okay.
Since recording it, but those are it really. And it was really just because I was like learning songs in both tunings and thought they sounded cool. And that was really like, I was learning Algernon songs and like stuff and American football songs, and just was like, and like into it over it. And it was just like, oh, this all sounds pretty cool. And just kind of kept going with that.
Gotcha. Were all three of these tracks written with the idea of kind of putting out a 3P, or was it just kind of like you had the songs put together and they all sounded close enough or together enough that you were like, oh, let's put it out as its own kind of standalone?
It was originally 4.
Okay.
That we decided the 4th song that we originally had in there just kind of like sounded a lot different from these other 3 songs. And so and also because of we were going to rework it, and then the pandemic happened, and we just decided to focus the mixing efforts on the other 3 songs because they do fit very well in together. Like
they flow well, and they don't. It's not like a concept EP, but like
no,
that 4th song, if it does come out, I'll be if we're able to make it all work, we'll be excited to have it out. And we like it. It was one that like it felt would stick out a little bit too much on this batch of songs. Like, or I don't know. There's a sense of cohesion, and like as Jacob said, with mix, like with reworking, it got to a point where it made everything indicated to us, like it's almost like every sign pointed these 3 songs like work together, like.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Roll with this now, and then as long as you get through this period right now, we'll be able to come back to this.
Okay. Well, moving into the third one here, that's Truth Changes. This one is like, for the first 2 being as cynical as they tend to be, this one's kind of the more sentimental, the happier track of the 3. So talk to me about this one.
So for me, this was a song that, I think there's a lot of songs about nostalgia, and just in general, like being a 90s kid, like there's like nostalgia has become this like market that I don't think is based on or doesn't do well under like great appraisal, and maybe that's or reappraisal, and maybe that's just my cynical view, but it's like I find when I linger too long in nostalgia, I remember, oh, that's why that happened. Oh, that's why we don't talk anymore. Oh, that's why we stopped hanging out. Oh, that's why this thing. That's why we're not like as cool or as close or whatever. And this was a song that like I'm a big Third Eye Blind fan, and I love that self-titled record is like one of my like favorites, and I think like I think about like how the song "How's It Gonna Be" is about what's it gonna be like when these people, when these changes happen, and these people and these places and these moments that are so foundational to me are no longer part. Like, what's that look like? That's what that song is. This is a song that's like on the other side of that. This is when you're looking back at like the things that you thought were permanent, or maybe you knew weren't permanent, but in the moments you lived through them as vibrantly as possible. That from it seems like it, or it's visceral enough that you can still kind of tap into those feelings, which is why people have the nostalgia. It's that first seed, the real shit, the true shit, that the fact that it did matter. And it's kind of, again, that little wrestling that I have with, you hold on to these feelings, or these feelings hold on to you, and then you try to you throw them away, and then they end up back. It's like I don't know, it's like a boomerang kind of.
Yeah, well, since you mentioned the boomerang, I was looking back through the lyrics while you were talking here a little bit, just because like the last little bit of that song, that last end with the everything changes, really kind of fits, where it's like you're looking back and just like with the feeling nostalgic and having that sentimental, you start to maybe pick apart what, like, while it did matter, you pick apart what that means, and the fact that like the truth of that moment has since undergone a bit of a change between then and now.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. It's this idea of like, I don't know, these people or these plans or these places in your life that that you can kind of tap into, like sitting on this couch or in this room or something, and like being like, damn, this is great. That whole that whole Andy Bernard, The Office. I wish you knew it was I wish you knew you were in the good old days when you were in them, or something.
Yeah,
Like it's kind of it's kind of that, where it's like
you go through that like so many times in your life too.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's more
points in your life. There are more, and like it's crazy. Like even when you brought when you came up with I think that was like a chorus or a set of lyrics that you kind of like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure like you kind of had them because you just started singing them right away. Like the first time we all brought, the first practice I brought the song to, and I was like, wait, what? Like, and then kept listening. I was like, dang, this is some rough shit right here. Like, this is like,
well, the verses were first. That was a case where the verses actually came first and quickly lyrically, and then it created this thing where like, okay, this chorus needs to like really needs to count, because like I'm not usually going about this the way I usually do, and it's just I thought about, I don't know, I don't think I'm the typical old friend for some people. Like I feel like I don't always share the same nostalgia that they do, but I still like seeing the people, and like sometimes if I run into people at if I'm back in my like hometown and I run to somebody at a local bar, obviously not now, or run into someone at a venue, obviously not now, these things of like, you start to retell these stories, and kind of when you walk away, or at least for me, I'll walk away and it'll be the type of thing where like very slowly the bad parts come back, into my
Mhm.
mind, you know, or you know, it's also like it's not a one-way street. I mean, that's part of what the lyrics reference. It's not a one-way
Mhm.
street, you know. It's there's you know, two people are always, or not necessarily, it can be more than two people, but like when communication dies, it usually requires two or more parties for that communication to die, and for that plant not to be grown again. And this was kind of a nice way to again play out these kind of, I guess, niche or nuanced inner inner battles that I kind of just let marinate in my head for endless amounts of time.
Yeah. Moving over to the instrumentation side, the end of the song really builds to a big chorus before kind of like fading out for a last few words. Talk to me about like writing and just kind of that build up there at the end. It's especially for the final track, you know, it's the closer, and that it really feels like the closer.
Yeah. And it's so funny because it is like, it's not a super long song either, and none of these songs are super long. Like, I think it does like clock in under 10 minutes the whole thing. So I very much was like trying to like not cram but like jam pack a lot of different sort of themes and ideas into these songs. And then at the end there, because I didn't really want to just do another chorus again, I very much I love like these like big like outros. And like, I mean, I like went through the worst hair metal phase in middle school, and like I love a good, I'm a sucker for a good,
Cherry Pie, is that your Warrant? Are you a big Warrant fan?
No, but I am a sucker for a good power ballad, not going to lie. And a good, just like this like epic ending. And like that's also why I'm like a big like a My Chem fan, and I love Dashboard too because of all that sort of sentimental outro-y type stuff. And I kind of wanted to do, well, I was just like wanting to come with an outro, and then we were like, oh, like this could be like our Screaming Infidelities like outro song, where we have like that big, just like huge repeated thing. And we went to, when we went and recorded it, it sounded awesome, and it sounded really cool, just like playing the chords to the end, like with like the drums under it too. And like I in practices up until that point, I was doing this thing like, well, so the whole time, the first half of that outro, it's the chords are ascending, and then we like do like a big like unison stop, and then it's descending, kind of like, it's like we're building up to this point, and then it's like, nah, fuck it, and just like just like going crazy to the end. And I don't know, I just like, I wanted to kind of like build this tension to that point, to then kind of like have it just like entirely fade out, but then like kind of like reintroduce this like nothing has changed kind of thing at the end.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like and at that point I just kind of like was going crazy when we recorded it, and just started like doing my own version of like like Ray Toro's like guitar work and My Chem, and just like bringing in also just like my rock guitar playing influence, and just started like, even still in like the open tuning, like ripping like a regular like guitar solo at the end, just to like kind of like and it's like, it is like, it's not buried in the mix, but it is like definitely down there a little bit, just because like we didn't want to sound like we were Avenged Sevenfold or something.
Yeah.
But
Bad Country.
Yeah. But like it was just a kind of like my like nod to like my love of a good power ballad, regardless of like what that genre is. And then just kind of like a very roundabout way of saying I just wanted to write something really like epic, and was like really wanting to like I was like, that was that for me. That was the song I was looking forward to because I was gonna be probably like set closers too, and I was like, that was the song that I was most looking forward to playing live. And like, even though like I wasn't gonna be able to like play until like we were like discussing maybe getting like a second guitar player or something to help out for live shows, but like I was just excited to like rock those chords at the end, and like do that big stop because like I would do like at practices. We didn't end up recording this, but like during that like stop, I'd like do like a like the harmonic thing and like have this like tremolo pedal to make it do like a thing to like stutter effect or whatever. But we were like that was just like I really wanted to like capture this like big and like we're all together and like you can hear like and that was like we came up with me and Desmond and then also like Andrew Cunningham who helped us retrack all the vocals. We kind of came up with like it would be really sick to like have like a big like group vocal like epic just kind of like build up to this thing to then like and then in like the comping and mixing phases to then just like let Desmond like on his own just like going crazy, like letting all that energy from the entire EP just like
release right there.
That even if I hate that even if I hate it like line, it was like
that was brutal.
that was kind of like okay. It was one of those things where it's like, man, you know the bridge from How's It Gonna Be and how you've been listening to that for like ever. Think about that. Think about like how Stephen Jenkins goes ham on that, or like Jacob said, like with Screaming Infidelities. There's that part in Screaming Infidelities in the bridge where it's that everywhere. Go ahead. That like fucking like high fucking part is like I don't know. That was like I don't know. That was fun to get to like have the catharsis of the song, but then also get to be like, hey, you get to kind of like play around with things that are like similar to like two bands that you're like a big fan of that you've never really like gotten to play around with.
Yeah.
Actually, like very like deliberately bringing into the songs that you're writing.
Well, moving away from kind of like the track by track here, I was looking through liner notes and stuff, and I saw that you tracked this EP with a few different people. Was that like a side effect of COVID, or was talk to me about like the recording process for this record? Because you've mentioned it a couple of times, like that final bit of Truth Changes was kind of the product of working with comping or doing vocals again, or what was kind of take me through that.
Like that was logistics. That was this was recorded pre COVID. It was the like we tracked instruments with Preben, who Jacob I believe knows through college.
He's a college friend of a friend from home. I had worked with him previously with one of my with an old band. Like he helped us record one of my old band's EPs, but yeah, we tried to do this thing where we were gonna record 4 songs in 2 days and do it all.
Way too and yeah, it was way too much of a like it was
a lot. We traveled from New York to Connecticut to do it too, and like stayed over, and it was.
It was the type of thing where like you know trying to like rushing vocals like just does not work. Like, and it was one of those things where it's like, you know what, these just aren't good enough, but like we don't need to go to Connecticut to do vocals. And Andrew's a friend. He's in a very, very cool band called Ticker Tape. And he lives not that far from me. And I just reached out to him and I was like, hey, because I knew that he like always self-tracked his stuff for Ticker Tape. And I was like, hey, could I record vocals with you? Like, and he was like, yeah, sure. No problem, man. And it was literally like a 5-minute drive, like one exit away from my apartment. And we just recorded the vocals with him. And that that was great. And so that was a year ago. And it was just, we did that. And then, there just was not a good time to release music. It felt throughout 2020 after like the whole context of this music is like not.
It's like being able to play it live is like very important for like, I guess, this like sound and like
it. Yeah. And it was one of those things where like, okay, well, you know, let's sit on this for a bit. And then like, as all the Black Lives Matter, George Floyd related protests happened like throughout like the summer, it was just, there's no, I personally, like, it makes no sense to put something out if you can't fully dignify and like be energized about it. And there was no good, like there was no mood. There was no like, we did demo stuff, and we did demo some like socially oriented stuff during that time. But when it came to like, again, this idea of like publicly consumed like there was not, rather than, you know, some bands deciding to put music out during all of that, but then like, you know, explain why it was still like there wasn't a middle ground to like try to like exist. I just didn't and like whatever, you know, you can make your decision on that however you feel. I did not have like the palate for that. And then like, okay, let's look to the fall. But then with the fall, the election, and it's like, okay, everything has got like, again,
it's like 2021. Things. That's our year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, you know what, maybe let's just fucking wait. Let's wait till January 1st, 2021. Because it's like, it can't be worse. And, you know, I don't know.
And we record this the day after the Capitol happened.
We're starting.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, 2021 is vying to at least tie 20. It's like, it's on pace, you know, per week. It's putting up some serious numbers. If you approximate this to a year, it's putting a hurt in. But yeah, no, it's like, it's been a long, windy process. But, again, kind of to your point about the construction of this lineup, it's been this thing where it's taken time, but we've found ways to, you know, steer with the wind.
Gotcha. Also with this release, you partnered with Solidarity Club to put out tapes, right? Talk to me about kind of coming together for that and going through that process.
So Solidarity Club, Greg, I've only recently linked up with, like, just that, like, Solidarity Club has been one of my great like Twitter link ups of the past like couple of years, because like just the again, it's like the voice and perspective of minorities and people of color in this scene is something that is like, it's we exist, you know. But there hasn't been much of a voice to it, as much as like there's been a lot of you know, I feel well-intentioned, genuine like allyship push from like, you know, a predominantly white scene. It's not the same. So when you get to like kind of link up with other people that, and obviously you know, not all people of color have the same experiences and by identity, but there still is something to be said about like that experience. So I hit it off with Greg, and I sent them when we were getting ready to like just put this out. I sent them the SoundCloud, and they were like, "Yo, this is sick. let me know if you want." And I was like, and again, like Jacob said, these songs are not long, and I'm like, you're not done with the EP yet, but if you're like interested in doing tapes, like, cool. You know, let me respond before you get, you know, I want to make sure that you don't get turned off by track 3.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's, but no, you know, the fact of, you know, Solidarity Club being a Black and queer run label, very important for me to amplify. Greg and I have been speaking about that. The way our Bandcamp downloads have mutual aid benefit to it. Greg and I have been discussing doing some sort of like post-production proceed for the tapes, even just because, Solidarity Club wears their beliefs on their sleeve. Like that label is calling shit out and calling it out in a way of like, let's fucking do something, basically. Like we don't need another think piece. We don't need another, we need action. We need action, and we need to actually build in and amplify actual visibility and not just like visibility, but also like empowerment. It's not just about seeing, it's about empowering, and it's about amplifying, and Solidarity Club is all about that life. And for me, like for our first, I wasn't even thinking about doing anything physically, physical release oriented, but from linking up with them, it was like, oh, this is the thing to do with this in this very like uncertain period of music, and when will things happen again. Like, I think the best we can do is find people and causes to amplify and build on, so that way the scene when it reopens is something better than the scene when it closed.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, we're coming into our last few kind of questions here. So, you said 2021 is your year. Does the band have any plans, if you're so bold to make plans, kind of moving into the year? Is it too early to decide yet, or?
Well, if McElwain is done probably lifting weights at the gym to respond to our our planning call inquiry, we actually might have a like. Obviously, with COVID, it's difficult, to figure out how to make. You have to go through so many steps of making plans just to ever be in the same room with somebody else. It requires like so much like, shared agreements on what that means, and then like literally making sure your schedule allows to meet those. Where it's like, if you have a family, like if your mom's birthday or your cousin's, I don't know, engagement party, maybe you shouldn't have that, but that's a whole other thing. These are hypotheticals. None of our cousins, I don't know. But we have plans. I mean, we've written a bunch of songs already.
Okay.
We've demoed songs. We've demoed some songs. We have plans to record some more songs soon. We want to make a lot of noise in 2021. There's a lot to say. There's a lot to do, but again, it's like, it's difficult. I imagine a lot of bands. We're a band that has no, infrastructure. We haven't existed. So like, and because like, the four of us are, thankfully all employed at the moment. Like it's one of those things where we don't need to rely on this to, factor into our living expenses or anything like that. But we do, it's so for those bands, I can't imagine how they're trying to figure out like how to exist or what to do. But for us, it's like we want to put out music, which does cost money. But like, so to do so, and for it to like, again, that ratio of like what it takes out of your adulthood life to actualize, we definitely want to be very smart about when live shows are a thing again. Because to me, that's a big factor, at least personally, as far as how I think about but I think we have, this is not the only release from Career Day that you will hear in 2021 by a long shot.
Well, awesome. Well, glad to hear that, because the EP's sick. Where can people interact with y'all online? Where can they find Career Day?
So Career Day is available, I think, all the Instagram and Twitter and Facebook if you are over 50 listening to this. I think it's all Career Day NY is the way you find the handle. And also, I especially want to amplify, I don't know when this comes out or when you're listening to this, but at the moment, Bandcamp Fridays are a thing. And our Bandcamp, we are going to be putting all the proceeds that we get from downloads there to mutual aid causes. It's going to be split 4 ways between New York City DSA, mutual aid, Queens Care Collective, and the mutual aid funds of the Suffolk County and Nassau County chapters, because some of this band is originally from New York City. We all live in different boroughs of the city, but a lot of the band grew up on Long Island. So we're trying to very much amplify. As much
as we dislike where we're from, it needs help.
Yeah.
Well, the reasons we dislike where we're from, are not the people that we're thinking about when we think about mutual aid.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about the guy that talks about, the guy that I grew up with that talks about doing things the right way when he got the job from his dad.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about them when it comes to mutual aid, and in the spirit of, not wasting all your energy on arguing on social media with people that are idiots that you grew up with. It's good to try to put some money and shine on causes that help put food and necessities in the hands of the vulnerable and the marginalized.
The Ear Coffee Podcast is a companion to the blog of the same name. If you like this episode, please leave us a rate and review so we can stand out among the other music podcasts. You can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram @Ear Coffee. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.